going on, everybody? Good morning. It's 11:06. No, it's 11:07 now. AM Eastern Standard Time. It is Tuesday, June the 9th, 2020. I'm Dave McRae, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. And this is episode 66 of McRae Live. We are talking You Should Have Left, starring Kevin Bacon. It's coming to video on demand June 19th, I believe. Hey, yes, June 19th. I think that's when it's coming anyway. Let me just turn this on so I'm a little brighter in the face there. Yeah, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Good to see everybody here. We are live and we are rolling along. Episode 66. I can't believe we've done 65 of these things already. I mean, it's insane. But yeah, nothing crazy today. I don't like to make these things too complicated, but I did see the trailer for the new Kevin Bacon movie that is coming out. And like I said, I think it's June 19th, I believe it is. I should have had this up beforehand. There we go. June 19th. Yes, video on demand, not in movie theaters. I don't know if the original intention was to put it into movie theaters. And of course, then they didn't because of obvious reasons, or if it was always going to go to video on demand. I don't know. Maybe somebody knows for sure. If you do know for sure, then speak up and give me a little bit of information on that. But if you don't know, don't say you do if you don't. But nonetheless, I watched the trailer. It is written and directed by David Koepp. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. I don't think it's Koepp. I think it's Koepp, if I'm not mistaken. Now, David Koepp is a guy who is, listen, I believe he helped to write, if I'm not mistaken, he wrote or helped to write the screenplay for Jurassic Park, but he also wrote the screenplay for Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So, who knows, right? I believe so. Yes, writer Jurassic Park. So let's look at his, let me just bring this over here for a moment and get this other screen up so you guys can see what I'm looking at here. Okay, so, this is, one moment here. This is David Koepp here. So, as a writer, of course, he's got You Should Have Left. Yeah, let me just, where am I here? I wanted to extend that. There we are. So I can see it a bit more. When I think of David Koepp, it's very difficult to not think of some of the blunders he's had. But then again, he also wrote the screenplay for War of the Worlds from 2005. I actually quite like that Spielberg film. He wrote the screenplay for Spider-Man in 2002, Panic Room, Stir of Echoes, of course. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he also directed Stir of Echoes, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, he did. And Stir of Echoes was great. So, but the reason why I bring up Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is because a buddy of mine who I was talking to, not Bruce, I have more than one buddy, was saying, I don't know, man, he wrote Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And I'm like, yeah, but look at some of the other shit he's written, and he directed Kevin Bacon in Stir of Echoes. And Stir of Echoes is one of those movies where it didn't get a lot of buzz when it came out. It did a little bit, but it's one of those ones that when you mention, 9 times out of 10, horror fans will be like, oh, yeah. Oh, I totally forgot. Yeah, that's a good movie. Now, it's not a great movie. It's not like it's changing the face of horror, or it's one of those ones that are going to go up on the horror Mount Rushmore or something. But it's one of those ones that I think people, when you see especially back in 1999, when you saw the trailer, and then you watch the movie, or when you know what it's about, and most movies of this type of thing are like, run-of-the-mill cliche. And not that there aren't a few little cliche things in there, but by the end of the movie, most people's general consensus is, you know what? That was actually pretty good. That was actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So David Koepp is, he's a certainly capable director and writer, 100%. And, we know this. So, where am I here? Where's my little, there we go. So back to David Koepp. And like I said, as we scroll down here, now let's look at his directing. He's got 10 credits. You Should Have Left. Okay. Ghost Town. Ghost Town was that the one with Ghost Town. Secret Window. I saw Secret Window in the theater. Right. This movie could go either way. In terms of the creative behind it, David Koepp has some misses, but he has I don't want to say he has hits. Okay, when I say hits, I mean movies that people are like, oh, it was pretty good. I don't mean hits as in terms of like he's, but again, if you look at his writing, I mean, Jurassic Park was a hit. I mean, it became one of the highest grossing movies in motion picture history. You look at War of the Worlds. I mean, that was a big hit, box office wise, right? Of course, he didn't direct those films, but certainly he's absolutely capable. But what I mean by is that it's 50-50 is that, I don't know. I mean, I think there's a good chance that this could be a pretty decent little horror film. I think there's just as good a chance that you could walk away from it going, meh, whatever. You know what I mean? And I know you could say that about a lot of things, but usually I like to look at who's attached to it, not just who the director is, but who the writer is as well, because the director obviously has to interpret the writer's vision, in terms of what they've written, and they have to, do it in their own way, of course. But he's the writer and director of You Should Have Left. And it's interesting. It's interesting. So let me get this sucker off the board here. And let's go to what this movie is about. Okay, just moving this out of the way for you guys. Okay. So, yes, this is the Darren Sands, and I've checked Universal Theatrical slate. Doesn't appear. It looks to me like it was always S for VOD. Okay, cool. Thanks, Darren. Thanks for that information. I appreciate that very much. Very much. So we have, what do we got here? Blumhouse. Anyways, the title says Blumhouse thriller You Should Have Left to debut on VOD, I think is what it says. Watch trailer. I'm just trying to get this all angled here so I can see it. So it's big enough for me to see, but it's also... Okay, there we go. So anyways, there's Kevin Bacon and what's her face there? Amanda Seyfried? Is that how you say her last name? Seyfried? I think that's how you say it. Anyway, clearly almost 30 years younger than Kevin Bacon. So this is a very interesting sort of casting. And well, let's read this first, and then I'll give you my thoughts. So Universal and Blumhouse are taking their Kevin Bacon, Amanda Seyfried psychological thriller You Should Have Left straight into homes on Friday, June 19th for a North American PVOD release. The pick was directed by Jurassic Park and Mission Impossible scribe David Koepp, which he adapted from the German novel. Okay, it's adapted by a German novel. Okay. By Daniel Kellman. Kellman, is that how you say that? Kellman? Okay. So it's not an original piece. He's adapted. Obviously, he has a lot of experience in adapting things, of course. Cool. All right. Bacon and Seyfried star as a couple seeking a restful vacation on an isolated edge of the world in the Welsh countryside. I figured it was overseas because as soon as I saw the license plate, I was like, that's not a North American style license plate. Let me try that again. Bacon and Seyfried star as a couple seeking a restful vacation on an isolated edge of the world in the Welsh. On an isolated edge of the world? It just sounds weird to me. Anyway, in the Welsh countryside, only to discover the secrets demand a reckoning and travel with them. I'm sorry. This just isn't. I got to get the flow here. Folks. Bacon and Seyfried star as a couple seeking a restful vacation on an isolated edge of the world in the Welsh countryside, only to discover that secrets demand a reckoning and travel with them. There you go. I said the. Their marriage is shredded at the seams, frayed by her secretiveness, his jealousy, and the shadow of his past. At first, their vacation with their 6-year-old daughter seems like a perfect retreat. But, scroll down here, get away from my little window, but distorts into a perfect nightmare when Theo's grasp on reality begins to unravel, and he suspects that a sinister force within the house knows more than he or Susanna, played by Seyfried, have revealed even to each other. Fascinating indeed. You Should Have Left is produced by Jason Blum, the Purge and Halloween franchises. Bacon and Dean O'Toole's Walk Like a Panther, and is executive produced by Jeanette Volturno, Cooper Samuelson, and Derek Ambrosi. We hear from sources that the movie was never planned to have a theatrical release. Oh, well, there you go. I should have just fucking read it. Sometimes people ask me, do I read these things beforehand before I do the show? And I don't usually, unless it's something I want to hone in on, a specific piece of information that becomes the main topic of the show. But I like things to be organic here on the show. Hey, there you go. I should have read it. Darren was on it. It was right there in the article. I should have read it. Nonetheless, okay, so this is interesting. So I watched the trailer, and, the first, I would say, 40 seconds of the trailer, it looks like just your run-of-the-mill standard horror movie. I mean, that's what it looks like. And most of these movies are dog shit. Most of them are dog shit. Now there's different variations of dog shit. Some are smelly springtime dog shit when, the snow begins to thaw. Some are just, old dog shit that's been lying in your backyard for, a couple of weeks that you missed. Some are fresh dog shit just coming out of your dog's ass. I mean, there's different variations of dog shit. Most horror movies are dog shit. Most of them are, because they rely on cliched narratives and tropes and characters and stuff that has just been beaten to death. No pun intended. So that's what this trailer looked like it was going to be for the first, 40 seconds, right? When the little girl is in the bedroom and she's doing little shadows on the wall and you see the shadow emerge, I was like, lame. Cool effect. I mean, it's a cool effect. But, haven't seen that before. Gee, didn't see that coming. And the way it looked very digital. And I just was like, lame. But, now I don't know anything about the book, but a psychological component to the movie began to take over the trailer. Okay, now I'm listening. Now, this doesn't mean the movie's going to be good at all, but now I'm listening. And I found this very interesting. It's the kind of movie where I suspect, now I haven't read the book. I don't know. Billy Van says that's a lot of dog shit. There's a lot of dog shit. There's many variations of dog shit. Now, again, I don't know. I haven't read the book. If you've read the book, if you know how this thing ends, then now don't say anything, okay? Because I'm not familiar with the story or the book. But I will say I suspect, based on what I'm seeing, that, and maybe I suspect this because I'm sort of hoping for this, even though it could, and by the trailer, it could go either way, but I'm really hoping that there isn't, although I guess there kind of is when you look at the very end of the trailer. We'll get to the end of the trailer in a second. I'm really hoping that this is more psychological than supernatural. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping there's very little that's supernatural about this movie. I'm hoping that what we perceive as supernatural is only in the mind of Kevin Bacon's character, or perhaps in the mind of the little girl. I know at the end of the trailer, the little girl sees that woman in the bathtub, and then all of a sudden there's the jump scare at the end where the one, and that was lame to me. Lame. But I understand that when studios distribute, their footage to the trailer houses to have them cut their trailers, that sells. I mean, there is, despite the fact that I don't like it and it's lame, ending your trailer on that note does, statistically, they've proven this, they've done focus groups on this, people like it. I mean, you may not, I may not, but there's a certain sector of the population that loves seeing that shit, And I would never have, if it were up to me, I would never have done that. I just would have ended it with sort of like, whatever the guy was saying, or whatever the voiceover was there, said something like, but it doesn't matter to blah, 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 blah. They all come back to haunt us, or something like, he said something like that. And then it was just Kevin Bacon's face, right? And he's like, looking down at something, and we know he's looking at something, but we're not quite sure. Well, no, I guess it was the bathtub. Anyways, I got to watch. I haven't watched this yet. I haven't watched since last night. And I think it was the bathtub, if I'm not mistaken. But I just would have ended it there. That's where I would have ended it. But no, they got to have the big jump scare and blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. All right, fine. I get it. It's good for the trailer. I'm just hoping that this is really more all in Kevin Bacon's mind than it is literally there. And I think what I would I like it when the horror is really about the suppression of the past. Now, you can do it both ways. Because look at What Lies Beneath. What Lies Beneath had a supernatural element to it. It was a supernatural film, but it also had the psychological component to it as well, because, well, let me pull that back a bit. It was more supernatural than psychological, but what I liked about What Lies Beneath is that there was more to it. There was a mystery to unravel. It wasn't just these ghosts. It had to do with her husband, the secret that her husband was keeping. I thought I knew my husband, and all those layers there that were interesting to see them unravel. So, you can do the same thing here, that maybe there's a literal supernatural entity that's in the house. It's been done so many fucking times. It's just been done so many times that I think it would be really cool if this was really more about Kevin Bacon and the suppression of the things that he has suppressed within his subconscious that are starting to manifest, outwardly in his own mind. Now and maybe his daughter, his little girl, is able to see these things for whatever reason. Maybe because she's a child. If you believe in that kind of thing, children are more likely to see spirits and ghosts and things like that. Because if you believe in that kind of thing, they say, well, because they're so close to the other side, whatever. And you could spin that however you want. Because I don't think, and I stand to be corrected, but I don't think that in the trailer at least, Amanda Seyfried's character, I don't believe we see her coming into contact with anything supernatural. She's sort of the exposition there. And there's that moment where she's talking to her daughter saying, well, Daddy did, such and such, and people, he was proven innocent, but people still think, he's guilty, blah, blah, blah. So clearly that's telling you that there is something there in Kevin Bacon's past that she knows about, that she probably believes he's innocent on, but he may not be as innocent as he appears to be. Clearly, that there's maybe he is innocent to a degree, but maybe there's something else that he's even kept from his family. That's likely what it is. And this horror, this shit that's going down, is the manifestation of that, those secrets unraveling before his eyes. Like, no, so I guess it could be like a What Lies Beneath situation where the spirit and ghost of Madison, I forget her last name now, Madison in What Lies Beneath, the ghost from the other side was like, no, seeking revenge in a way, but more about the truth, not just necessarily revenge, but the truth. The truth must be heard. The truth must come out because this woman's living a lie and she doesn't even know it. You know what I mean? And, it's yeah, and he murdered her. So, I mean, there could be a what lies beneath sort of situation going on there where maybe Kevin Bacon did really murder this woman that we see in the bathtub, maybe, right? But it was in self-defense, or like there's got to be some sort of hook that you at least, maybe there's a moment where you can feel empathetic towards the character, but he still should never have done what he did. So I gather that that's probably how they're going to play it, if it's what I'm thinking. Now, again, I suspect that that is what we're seeing here. And obviously the house plays a pivotal role in that somewhere, right? Because we see that, I sent you the link to the house. I thought you sent me the link to the house. Neither of them apparently sent the link to each other, right? So obviously they've been brought here, either, whether it's fate, destiny, whether it's somebody else that we haven't seen on screen, like that old, or the old guy or whatever that's brought them there. Is he familiar with the house? Has he been there before? Has he suppressed things? Like I like shit like that. And I just really hope there's more of that than there is a literal supernatural interpretation. And if there is a literal supernatural interpretation, then I really hope it's more in line with like what lies beneath. It's got some meat on the bone. It's got some maturity to it. It's got some, there's some thought in there. It's not just a supernatural haunted house film, because it's just, now judging by the trailer, you think that that's where you're going in the first like 40 seconds. And then there's the moment, of course, where the trailer turns and you're like, oh, okay, this is clearly a psychological horror movie, which is great. I like seeing that. But even though it looks like it's going this way, we still don't know sort of to what degree, in which way it goes. And that's what has me a little sort of like, you know what I mean? Because there's an opportunity here for this maybe to be a really, really good psychological thriller, and of course, David Koepp did direct Secret Window with Johnny Depp. And that was a movie, sorry, I'm going to spoil it for you guys, but it's like, 15 years old. That was a movie where it pretty much was all in Johnny Depp's head. So you think shit's going down, but it really is, he was crazy in some way, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I like things like that. I liked Hide and Seek with Robert De Niro and Dakota Fanning and Elizabeth Shue. I enjoyed that movie for what that movie was. That came out a year after Secret Window. They're very similar in the sense that, now I'm not saying that it should be Kevin Bacon's the one that's causing all this. I'm not saying that, take that approach. But I do like when there's more thought put into it rather than it's just a haunted evil spirit, and they got to get away and jump scares and, it's just like, we've seen it so many times, and we just know how they're going to go. So I like seeing I like the trailer. I do. I like the trailer. I think I'm optimistic about this. I'm just really hoping that there's a lot to do with Kevin Bacon's character, that there's more of a literal interpretation of shit that's going down. But from a psychological standpoint, it's frightening. It's more about the psyche of this man than it is anything literally or on the nose supernatural. Do you know what I mean? Like, clearly there's something about his past. It says, right there in the article. Obviously there's something in his past. I wouldn't have even given that away, really. I'm surprised they actually gave that much away. I don't know if I would have done that. But certainly there is something in his past, something he's keeping in his past that even his wife doesn't know a lot about. Now, what's really interesting, when I said this at the beginning of the show, I said, I find it a very interesting choice to cast Amanda Seyfried, if that's how you say her last name, I think it is, opposite Kevin Bacon. Now, Kevin Bacon is in his 60s. Amanda Seyfried, I think, is like 5 or 6 years younger than me. So I think she's like 34 or 35. Kevin Bacon's about at least 25 years older. No, 10. Yeah, at least 25 years older than Amanda Seyfried. He's old enough to be her father. Now listen, Amanda Seyfried, she's, very pretty. She's very attractive. Great. Kevin Bacon is, looks good for his age. He certainly doesn't, But I find that interesting. And I wonder if that age discrepancy is going to come into effect in the movie. Now, maybe not. Maybe they just were like, let's just get Amanda Seyfried in this role. Let's get Kevin Bacon in this role. Although I will say this, again, is it like that in the book? Now, I haven't read the book, okay? I haven't, I don't know what the story's about from the book. What made it into the book? Sorry, what made it into the movie that wasn't, that was not, sorry. What did they take creative liberties on, when adapting the screenplay into the film that were not in the book? Because that happens as well. That's why you adapt screenplays, because, novel form doesn't necessarily translate well into feature film form. So you have to, adjust certain things, change certain things, leave things out, put things in, to make it more entertaining for a cinematic experience. So I don't know, maybe in the book, there's a 25-year age discrepancy between the two characters as well. Maybe it's reversed. Maybe the book it's about a woman and a man, or, a older lady and a younger man. I don't know what's in the book. I'm just going by the information that I have by the trailer and by, the couple of articles I've read. I'm very curious to see, and don't say anything if you do know. Don't say anything if you do know, but I'm very curious to see if that age gap, there's a reason for that. You know what I mean? Because the girl that you see in the bathtub as well, the spirit, she looks young. Do you know what I mean? And she doesn't look like she's, now again, I mean, maybe he murdered her 30 years ago or something, right? And of course, that's how, we're seeing her. I don't know. Maybe he didn't murder her at all. But I think I just find that interesting. Because we're not talking like 5 or 6 years. We're talking like clearly Kevin Bacon. He looks great for his age. But if Kevin Bacon was playing her father, you would believe it. I'd believe it. Yeah, totally. But he's not. And I like how they address his age, in the trailer by the girl. Mommy, because Dad's older than you, or a lot older than you, is he going to die before you, or something like that, whatever she says there. Okay, cute. I mean, that's a throwaway line. Or is it? If the age doesn't come into effect at all, and there isn't something by the end of the movie, by the third act, where you're like, oh, so that's why he's with this chick. He's a predator of some sort, that he likes to, not that she's underage, but he likes younger women, and that becomes evident in the things that are revealed. So then you're like, oh, it makes total sense. You know what I mean? Like things like that. Like, will it come to be? Will we understand why there's such a discrepancy in the age? And if not, if we don't at all, and it's just, they're just one of those two actors in the movie. Okay. Then the mommy, is Dad going to die, before you because he's so old or whatever? Then that just becomes a throwaway line. That's the filmmakers acknowledging, yes, we know Kevin Bacon's in his 60s. Yes, we know Amanda Seyfried's in her 30s. That's just their way of saying that, right? So this is really interesting to me. I like the trailer a lot, and but I mean, again, I didn't like the last jump scare. I mean, you know me, I don't like that kind of shit. I don't mind it if it's used sparingly, but because the trailer didn't really have any of that, I was disappointed that they ended up using that at the end. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, you were so close to not, relying on tired cliches, but you had to throw one in there anyway. But I do understand why they did. I like the pace of the trailer. I like the sound design, the use of the switches as not music, but as a pulse to the trailer. What's going on? I like that kind of thing. It's something that I would have done. It's a creative choice that if I had stumbled across that idea myself, I would have been like, oh yeah, totally, let's do this. I like that kind of thing. I like that the are on cuts as well. So when you hear the switch, it cuts. So it's always on the cuts. That adds a nice pace to the trailer. So I like it. I mean, it's good. And I like creepy things like when he measures the inside of the wall, right? It's like 26 feet or whatever. And then he goes outside and he's like 21. It's like, that's literally impossible. He doesn't say that, but that's what he's thinking, right? He's like, that's literally impossible. Like, how's that possible? I like things like that. I like mysteries like that. I like being put in the same position as the characters, where it's like, ooh, this is kind of creepy, and we don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going on, I like that, the corridors and the things that, he opens a door and there's the stairs, all these stairs going down. Clearly there's more I believe there is more to the house. There is something going on in the house, and I don't just think it's all in Kevin Bacon's head, but I really hope there's part of that because, there's things that he's suppressed. I like that kind of stuff because I don't know. I guess I just find those things interesting from a psychological and sociological perspective. Anyway, it's just I find it makes characters more interesting. I'm fascinated when I watch true crime shows where you see people like that who have suppressed subconscious. They have all these things and they think they're seeing that, or I like things like that. So when that element is added to a horror movie, if it's done really well and there's a lot of believability to it, I always think that will elevate any horror movie that you're watching or doing, because then you can have it as a supernatural thriller, like I said, but there's another component there that just makes it far more deeper. There's more weight to it. And with actors like Kevin Bacon, he's going to bring it, and it doesn't look like he's phoning it in, I should say. So I like what I'm seeing. I just really hope this isn't a run of the mill. By the end of the movie, we're like, So anyway, yeah, so that's what I think. Just based on the trailer, I like what I see. Obviously, this is not rocket science, although I didn't know this until I read it. But certainly I suspected that it was more of suspect and also kind of hoping that there is more going on. He's suppressing this. It's not so much about the supernatural as it is the suppression of the natural that happened to him. And it's manifesting in these ways that are, getting to him. And if it wants to be a little bit of what lies beneath in there too, like there is literally something supernatural, but it's eating away at him because he's been lying to his wife and his daughter and things like that. And there's more to him than meets the eye. And I'm all get, like, I like that. I like that it's not just a haunted house movie. You know what I mean? Where this family moves into a haunted house and they have to deal with the demons of the haunted house. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's so saturated. Like come up with something different. Come up with another angle that we can glom onto so I like things, and it looks like that's what is going on here. And in the articles, they say, there's things about the past. They don't know. Do they know each other as well as they think they do? I like that because it's more meat on the bone. And I'm really curious about this age thing and whether or not it's going to actually play a role in the narrative or not. Really fascinating. Hey, what did you guys think? What did you guys think of the trailer for You Should Have Left? You Should Have Left. I have to admit too, like when he opens the book there or whatever, and he sees like, you should have left, do it now, or whatever it is there. It's like, did a supernatural force write that, or did he write that? Like, I like that kind of thing. Did he write that to himself? You know what I mean? But yet now because he's insane. He's sick. He's mentally ill. He's suppressed so many things. He doesn't even remember writing it. Like, that's like, I think of that kind of shit when I watch the trailer. I'm like, well, who's to say that this is supernatural? This might just be him and he's totally forgotten about it. Or, I mean, you know what I mean? Maybe it's her. Maybe there's something going on with her. Ooh, she's got those bug eyes. You know what I mean? Who knows? Anyways, I find it interesting. I find it interesting. Darren Sand says, this movie is getting more attention than it could ever wish for. You're right. And you want to know why, Darren? It was a good trailer. The trailer was really well cut. I don't know which trailer house put it together, but the trailer was a very well cut trailer. And the pacing of the trailer, the pulse of the trailer was really good. you could recut that trailer and make it look like just every fucking movie we've ever seen before. But the pulse of that trailer kept me very interested. And you're right. I think it's getting a lot more attention than it thought it would. But I think the credit at right now shouldn't go to the filmmakers. It shouldn't go to David Koepp, because we don't know what the fuck this movie's going to be like. It should go to the trailer house that cut this trailer. That's who it should go to, because it's like, you made this little Kevin Bacon horror movie that's going to VOD, get everybody's attention. You know what I mean? And that's the point of a trailer. It's all marketing, right? The point of a trailer is to get you excited about what this movie may have to offer. And so far, I'm interested. What did you guys think? Let me know. Let's get this rolling. Hey, let's go to the super chat. Some super chats came in here. Chris Haim sends in a super chat. Thank you very much, buddy. He says, I know it was just released the other day, but did you get a chance to check out Kevin James in Becky? Love the streams, Dave. I haven't watched Becky yet, but I'm really interested in watching Becky because I'm a big Kevin James fan and I want to see him in this role for sure. Justin Simonson says, thank you very much. Justin says, hey Dave, you check out the new Bill and Ted 3 trailer yet? Were you fans of the others? I have not. No. Did the trailer drop? I know the poster dropped, but I haven't checked out the trailer yet. I'll have to check it out if it's dropped. John Burke sends in a super chat. Thank you, John. Says, will It's Me, Billy be a slow burn type film? Yes. Now, remember, It's Me, Billy is a short film. So, it's not like there's going to be a slow burn over the course of 45 minutes or, whatever. But certainly within the confines of its 25, 30-minute runtime or however long it is, if we actually get a chance to make the movie. Remember, we still got to raise that budget. Then, yeah, I mean, there will have that element to it. It's very much, we're doing it very much in the style of Black Christmas within a 25-minute runtime. You know what I mean? So, yes, for sure. Let me see. Michael Bowles, is that how you say it? Bowles? Boles. I think that's how you say it. Thanks, buddy. Sends in a super chat and says, where are you here? There you are. First super chat, the very first super chat. He's popped his super chat cherry, ladies and gentlemen. Love your videos, Dave. Don't always agree with your points, but I like that they challenge me to see things in a new light that maybe I don't before and offer new perspective. That's awesome, man. That I really love to hear that. I love to hear that because, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Do you know what I mean? I mean, if I'm presenting to you facts, well, that's different, right? I mean, you can argue facts, but then I don't know what you're doing, right? But if I'm offering you my opinions, or even if the opinions are informed, because there's two different types of opinions, right? There's an opinion, which is usually stemmed from an emotional reaction, and then there's an informed opinion, which is still an opinion, but the informed opinion is based on evidence, is based on facts, based on high probability, right? So it's like, well, it's like... Are we back? We're back. There was a bit of a hiccup there. But we're okay. We're on. We're still on. I don't know where I left off, but I'll just say this. Yeah, so there's a difference between an opinion and an informed opinion, right? And an opinion would be like, there's a bump on my arm. I have a bump on my arm. And everybody's offering their opinion. Well, God, it could be cancer. It could be a cyst. Well, I think it's that because my grandfather had that and I think it's this and it looks like the same thing. So I think this is sort of like, you're coming from emotions. Everybody's offering their opinions. Informed opinions would be, I go to my doctor and I talk to somebody who looks at that and says, well, based on this and, because he's an expert in the field, there is a high probability that it's a cyst and not cancer. You know what I mean? And so could it be cancer? Well, I guess it could be. But we're talking about, he's basing it on evidence and facts and things that he's seen before and all that kind of jazz. So, you can disagree with that, but it's harder to disagree with informed opinions than just regular opinions. Like me saying, Halloween 5 is shit. Well, that's an opinion. But if I say, here's why I don't think it's a very good movie, you can still disagree with it. But when I start to break it down then, and I start to look at the characters and why, it becomes more difficult then, because it's like, oh, that's a good point. Oh, I see what you're saying there, because we're talking about this and this and this. But the best thing that you've said there is that you don't always have to agree. And that's what's so great about it, right? Like, again, unless I say, hey, it's June the 9th today, I don't agree with you. Well, it is. It's a fact. It's June the 9th. But whether it's opinions or informed opinions, everybody's entitled to feel the way they want. And the fact that sometimes you agree and sometimes you don't, I think that's awesome. I do. I sincerely do. Because I don't do this channel to get people to agree with me. I don't do this channel to, or this show to be liked or hope I'm liked. I mean, we always hope that you're liked, but I don't do it for that. I do it because, hey, I got something I want to say. So I say it, and then let's see if people agree with me or not. That's the most important thing. If the second, to all you YouTubers out there, whether you're big or small, the second you start curving your channel and your thoughts to fit what your audience wants to hear, then you're selling out. You are providing a service and a product, and there's no guarantees that you're going to like it. You know what I mean? And this is the service and product I provide. And if you like it, that's great. If not, well, you don't have to come into the store. No one's forcing you to come into the store. But I'm not going to change for the audience. You know what I mean? It's here it is. You like it? No. Okay, that's fine. Anyways, not to go off on a tangent, I just love when people send in shit like that, because it's the perfect example of what I love to hear from viewers. You're like, hey man, Dave, I love what you're doing. Sometimes I agree, sometimes I don't, but you know what? I appreciate you saying this. And then, it makes, if what I say at least makes you think, then it's successful. It's successful. It's absolutely successful if it at least makes you go, oh, because hey, you know what? There's sometimes, you guys will say things and I'll be like, you know what? That's a good point. That's a good point. I didn't think of that. It goes both ways. Thanks so much, man. Really, really appreciate that. All right, I think I got the last super chat there. If I'm not mistaken. Yes, I did. Gamer O Night says, don't care if people agree with me. Not why I do it, but have something to say. Let's see if people agree. Literally just saying. I understand what he means, though. I see. Yeah, well, yeah, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. I think it's how you have to be. It's, you got to be true to yourself, and you just let the chips fall where they may. Danita Brown, great to see you in here, Danita, says, it's pretty good trailer. Makes me want to watch for sure. I just hope it's along the lines of What Lies Beneath, one of my favorites that keeps me wondering until the end of the movie. Oh, What Lies Beneath is such a great film. Such a great film. Directed by Robert Zemeckis, of course. I always say this every time I talk about this movie, but I just find it so interesting. Robert Zemeckis he directed the first half of Castaway, then broke for about 6 to 8 months while Tom Hanks lost 50 pounds and grew a long beard. And went and shot with the same crew as Castaway, went and shot What Lies Beneath with Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford. And then once that was done, went back and shot the rest of Castaway after Hanks had lost all his weight and grew a long beard. And Zemeckis, I remember saying, it was so weird to do that because you're so passionate and committed to one story, and then to go make a completely different thing with completely different actors, and then go back. He says it was like a tug of war psychologically, and I can totally understand that. I totally get what he's saying. Totally. What Lies Beneath is a great movie. Oh yeah, it's a great movie. Saw that twice in the theater back in the year 2000. Steve McCoy says, Dave, what are your thoughts about the articles coming out that Dr. Loomis is in Halloween Kills? Steve, have you not been tuning in? Steve, you got to tune in, man. You got to tune in. I mentioned this last week. I mentioned it on Two Dudes and Some Bullshit the other night. The question is not whether Dr. Loomis is in Halloween Kills or not. The question is, how is he in Halloween Kills? If he's in, well, I mean, first of all, the question is he in Halloween Kills or not? Okay, great. But that's really not the question. Here's why it's not the question. Okay, here's why. Because he's dead. And if he were alive today, he'd be nearly 100 years old. So when somebody says Dr. Loomis is in Halloween Kills, he's obviously not going to be in present day in Halloween Kills because he'd be 100 years old. So if he's in Halloween Kills, then obviously he's probably in the flashback in some way. That should be, there is a high probability that that is true. So that's what you have to think of. He's in Halloween Kills. Well, him being in Halloween Kills actually already tells you where he's going to be utilized. We don't know how, but a very high probability of where he will be utilized in Halloween Kills without us even knowing that information. Nobody from the studio has come out and said, at least as far as I know, I stand to be corrected, as of this show, has come out and said, yes, he's in the flashback. They just say he's in Halloween Kills. Well, of course it's in the flashback. I mean, what are the chances that he's actually alive and 100 years old? Laurie! Highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. So it's obviously probably going to be in the flashback. So then the question becomes, well, how is he going to be? What does in the movie mean? What does it mean that he's in the movie? You see his trench coat flailing in the wind as he's running away from the camera down the sidewalk going, Michael! Well, there he is. He's in the movie. Or are they using a body double and some deep fake shit with some CGI and he has like a fully fleshed out conversation with a young Hawkins? Is that what it means? Does it mean that we see his elbow and his arm, and you hear the voice actor? So you kind of like see, his ear and the back of his bald head as he's talking to a cop. We don't see his face, but we hear the voice actor. Is that what it means? Because that's really the question. That's really the question, is how is he in it? Because I think, and the reason why I put so much emphasis on that is because Steve McCoy says, sorry, Dave, as a truck. No, don't apologize. Don't apologize. I'm just busting your balls, man. I'm just busting your balls. You know me. Come on. You know me. I'm just busting your balls. Love the questions. And I understand, of course, that not everybody can tune into every show, of course, naturally, right? Naturally. I'm just yanking your chain, man. I'm just yanking your chain. I don't mind answering it again. So that's really the question, right? Is that it's how is he utilized? Because we don't know. And the reason why I put so much emphasis on that is because I want people to have realistic expectations. Because, and not everybody, but generally speaking, when people say, Dr. Loomis is back, can you believe it? They get so excited. And it's like, well, hang on. He's not back. I mean, think about this. It's not like he's going to be in 2018. It's like when people got excited when David Gordon Green said, oh, do you? In reference to somebody tweeting at him, I wish Hawkins was still around or alive or in part 2 or whatever. And David Gordon Green said, oh, do you? Well, even if Hawkins is alive, even if Hawkins is in Halloween Kills, I think there is a high probability that we will see him in the ICU in a hospital bed with a feeding tube down his throat, and he might murmur a couple of words. Because let's not forget, as I mentioned, Halloween Kills picks up immediately after Halloween 2018. So it supposedly is said. Well, Hawkins just got stabbed in the jugular and run over by a police SUV or car or whatever. I mean, it's not like he's going to be part of the adventure, right? So it's like if it was a year later and he had time to recover, sure, he could be part of the adventure, but he's probably going to be in a hospital bed. Well, so the question then becomes, the question is not, is Hawkins in the movie? The question is, how is Hawkins in the movie? For anybody thinking that Hawkins is going to make a Looney Tunes cartoon epic type of recovery and all of a sudden is running down the street with Tommy and, Lindsay going, come on, he's over here. I mean, there's no believability in that at all. I would imagine that he would be in the hospital, hooked up, stitched up, I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe he makes an immaculate recovery, there's this incredible, is all of a sudden they just stitch him up and away he goes. But You know what I mean? So it's like, but if Hawkins makes an appearance in a hospital bed and maybe he has a moment of glory where he hits Michael with a stethoscope. I don't know. Like maybe there's something he can do. But when you say Hawkins is back, what does that mean exactly? Is he back, or is he just appearing in the movie? You know, or as a flashback, right? Because the question was, I wish Hawkins was there. Well, he didn't say I wish Will Patton was there. Maybe Hawkins, a young Hawkins, appears in the flashback. Got to think of that too. I might do a standalone video about all this, just so it's up there on the channel. I might do that. Anyway, so yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Those are my thoughts on that, man. But yeah, no, I'm just busting your balls, man. Just busting your balls. Just yanking the chain. Let me see here. Let me scroll back. Super chat did come in from John Burke. Thanks very much. John says, speaking of opinions, what's your view on the whole George Floyd situation and the protests? Well, John, I don't like to get political here, okay? I like to keep sort of this channel just talking about movies. All right. That's what I like to do. So, so I appreciate the support. I appreciate the super chat, but I just don't want to get into it because it's such a hot button issue right now. It's hot off the press. The iron is hot. People's emotions are running high. And maybe it's something that you can ask me again, maybe in a year from now, or maybe a couple of months from now, when things have died down, when things have simmered down, when there's not so much anger and turmoil and, emotions running through the roof. Maybe it'd be better to ask me, because I don't mind giving it. It's not that I don't want to give it. I just think right now it's best to keep this flowing just talking about movies and entertainment, sort of the escapism away from all of the drama that's happening in the world right now. So I do appreciate it. Maybe ask me again later in the future, and I'll address it. Frank Riker sends in a super chat. Thanks, Frank, and says, Dave, I just picked plums with Blum and he told me about Loomis, and you're wrong. I'm wrong. And Loomis's head was saved and sewn onto Laurie's body to tag team Michael. Oh my God. Amazing. Fascinating. I mean, the amount of stuff, the amount of information that Frank Riker has. Frank is a globe-trotting viewer of mine who is always into the so always into the shenanigans with Jason Blum, folks. You are amazing. Absolutely amazing. Diehard Drummer 84 says, I hate when people say if you stay silent, you're racist and part of the problem. Not necessarily. We are just tired of hearing it. Do people say that? Really? Well, that's not true at all. That's not true at all. I think if anybody makes you feel guilty that way, I think you just tell them to go to hell. I mean, that's not fair at all. I think people need to understand that sometimes, things are extremely hot and things are extremely difficult. They're difficult things to talk about. And when you have a platform like I do, but the identity of my platform is not talking about anything political. It's talking about movies and horror movies and dumb, funny shit and things like that. And, if I was a political show and John asked me that and I refused to answer it, well, then it would be kind of like, dude, you're a political show. What are you doing? Answer the question, right? But I'm not a political show. And so I think it's best that we just let things sort of, kind of just let cooler heads prevail a little bit, let some things calm down, and maybe I'll address it in the future because I don't want the chat room to start fueling into that, if you know what I mean. Billy Van says, gotta love Frank's humor. Thanks, Billy. Frank he's always on point. Frank, you're always on point, my man. Always on point. Gary Rangel says, Ray says, I went to school with Lonnie and he used to sell me. Yeah. No, I've look, the whole idea of that, and I missed it the first couple of times I watched it, Gary, is more of a the peyote. It's more of a I didn't really laugh at it. I just thought it was sort of, I just don't see what Karen sees in Frank. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. And when Frank says, oh, I got peanut butter on my penis, you know, people are like, oh, he's just having fun. No, that doesn't play out that way to me. Frank saying, oh, I just got peanut butter on my penis, doesn't play out like it's just dad being silly, you know, and he's doing it to gross out his daughter. It doesn't play out like that to me at all. It plays out that he's just an idiot and just likes to say that. Just, oh, I got peanut butter on my penis. Oh, I don't know what I really have no idea. So yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where I get it. Although when you look at Karen and you look at what she's been through in her life, and it's not surprising that maybe she ends up with somebody like Frank. Such a useless character at the end of the day. But I know what you're saying, though. I mean, it's funny to a degree, I guess. Jason the Tank Engine says, hey, Dave, do you think we'll go back to normal when COVID-19 is gone, or at least severely died down? I hope so. I mean, I saw on the news today that the WHO, a doctor or a higher up, and I forget her name now, in the WHO, who said that if you're asymptomatic, it is incredibly rare that you will pass on to anybody else. And I just rolled my eyes. I just thought, because remember, it was like, it doesn't matter if you're asymptomatic, you gotta, and now it's like, yeah, no, if you're asymptomatic, the chances of you passing on to somebody else are like highly unlikely. It was all over the news. I'm talking mainstream media. I'm like, oh, of course. It feels like we're being tugged this way and that way, and they don't know what the fuck is going on. Crazy stuff, man. I hope so. I really hope so. Let's see here. Robert Thidoff says, Dave, how about a top 5 or 10 McRae Live for best songs and movies? I like the idea. I may, I may do that. I still got to do a top 5 Craven. I want to do a top 5 Carpenter. I want to do a top 5 like Jim Carrey. There's still quite a few top 5s in there that I want to do. So maybe I'll put that on the list. Johnny T says, hey, Dave, in the past, you've discussed creating a new modern day slasher. I know it's not new, but I recently watched the Collector movies and really enjoyed them. Your thoughts? Never seen them. But I have heard other people say that they've enjoyed them, but I haven't seen any of them. Wayne Gotke. Am I saying your last name right? Gotke? Wayne sends in a super chat. Thank you very much, Wayne. Says, Dave, do you ever get the feeling there may have been a brief romance or affair with Dr. Loomis and Marion Chambers years back? Well, I think it depends. I love these types of questions. I think it would depend on what you're using as the litmus test. Right? Like what you're using as the bar for that. So if you're using Halloween H2O, where she was taking care of him later in his life, maybe. If you're using Halloween 2 or Halloween 1, especially Halloween 1, no, because she's just a nurse at the beginning of the movie. But I certainly could see how you could draw that conclusion. It's ripe for that. You could totally write that. They had some sort of affair. Oh, maybe there's, like I've always said, maybe there's a son. Maybe there's a son or a daughter that Loomis, because we don't even know that. It's funny. Whenever I watch fan films, and I understand why they do it, but whenever I watch fan films, apart from Halloween Night from JP DeStefano, Thunderknock Studios. I don't know if he's in the chat room or not, but his Halloween Night, his character was, I think anyway, I stand to be corrected, but I think he was the son of, or the grandson of Loomis, if I'm not mistaken. But what I really liked about his character being related to Loomis, I think that's what it was, is that he wasn't a psychiatrist. He wasn't a doctor. He was just a guy working in like a car shop. You know what I mean? He had nothing to do with that. Whenever I see fan films or people talk about a son or things like that, or they usually always like to, for whatever reason, have the child following in the exact footsteps. And I think it would be much more realistic and probable if Loomis had a son or a grandson, that had nothing to do with that, had a job as a chef or a cook or whatever. And he's thrust into this environment unwillingly. Like, that's interesting. And he's got a sort of, I find that interesting. And maybe Marion Chambers is his mother and they had like an affair. I don't mean an affair as in like they cheated on anybody, but they had like, a love affair for a few months or something like that. And it was hidden because they worked together and they couldn't, and it was hidden and they had a child. And Marion, she obviously didn't hide the child. She had it, but she hid whose child it was from, everybody. You know what I mean? And that would be interesting. That's kind of an interesting sort of, I think that's interesting. I don't know. But yeah, a love affair? Maybe. Dick Payne. Hope that pain in your dick's all right. UK media keeps going on about second wave of the virus. They like to keep us frightened. It's here too. It's all over here as well, for sure. Mark Striano says, I don't like the fact that my questions keep getting passed up on a consistent basis, and I'm a avid supporter. If Dave does not want me to be a part of the streams or videos, just tell me. Mark, here's what you have to understand, okay? As I say at the end of every show, or at the end of most shows, it's never personal. When you come into the chat room, you're never guaranteed to have your questions answered, okay? You have to remember that. Whether you're a patron or not, it doesn't matter. And the reason for that is because the chat room is moving by so fast, and sometimes I don't see yours, or sometimes I've answered yours, and then I move on to answer some people that I see in the chat that I've never seen before. So then I want to be able to answer theirs. Like sometimes I'll see somebody named, I don't know, John, Schmicker or something. And I'm like, oh, I've never seen that name before. And he asks a question. And maybe that question is right above yours or below yours. But because I've answered yours, I've answered maybe a couple of yours already in the stream, I will favor his over yours. It's not personal. It's just I try to give everybody as best as I can an even opportunity. The one thing, though, that you have to keep in mind is that some channels that you go to answer nothing but super chats. And I've yet to do that. I answer everybody's. I mean, obviously, when the super chats come in, I will favor those because those have to take priority for obvious reasons. But I still do my best to answer questions that are non-super chats as well. So just know, Mark, that it's never personal. I don't know you. You don't know me, right? You're a great supporter of the channel. You're always here asking all sorts of things. But every now and then you might see me pick a question that's above yours, below yours, or a couple above yours, or a couple of below yours. But it's not personal. It's just because maybe you've asked something that somebody else has asked earlier on, or whatever the case is. But I certainly answer yours, right? I do. But I like to try and give some people an even shake. Do you know what I mean? So just know that, okay? That you're never guaranteed. It's just kind of like, all right, I'm going to throw this out there and see if it sticks. See if Dave sees it. Come on, Dave, come on. And hopefully I will, right? The best way to get me to answer questions is to ask me things that have not been asked 43 times before. That's important too. You got to remember that. So it's never personal, man. We love you, Mark. We love you, buddy. Let's see. David Irwin says, Dave, have you seen Blue Steel with Jamie Lee Curtis and Ron Silver? And if so, did you like it? I love that movie. Blue Steel, I haven't. That's the one, she's the cop in that one, right? I haven't seen that. I've got to see that. I haven't. Oh yes, I can see the cover of that movie now. I could, like, she's on it like this or something, right? I gotta see that. Let me see. DMT Infinity says, Dave, any advice for Adobe After Effects users? Any advice for making a music video? I'm trying to make a 15-minute short film that will play out like a music video for my new album. Well, DMT, I have a very rudimentary understanding of Adobe After Effects. if it was Adobe Audition, I'd be able to help you out a lot because that's the software I use for my voiceovers and things like that. But Adobe After Effects it's a very high end, visual effects type of software, and I have a basic understanding of it. I might be able to put in like a muzzle flash from a gun or something like, what I mean? Like really basic shit. But certainly I'm no Adobe After Effects expert. So if I were you, I would just YouTube videos. Oh, sorry, YouTube a bunch of how-to videos because there's a ton of them there. And maybe you'll be able to watch like a 10, 15 minute video or something on how to do something that you need, that is your exact thing of how to do. So yeah, Adobe After Effects, I probably won't be able to help you with that. Any advice for making a music video in relation to After Effects? Is that what you're talking about, or just making a music video? I'm trying to make a 15-minute short film that will play out like a music video for my new album. Well, I mean, I've never made a music video in my life. I think how you would have to approach it is, if you want to approach like a short film, like a 15-minute short film that is also a music video, then you got to play it out like it's a 15-minute short film that's a musical. So in other words, like look at Michael Jackson's music videos. That's a great place to start. Go watch Thriller. Go watch Smooth Criminal. Go watch, any of it, like a lot of his short film, or a lot of his music videos were also short films. And therefore they played out like a 15-minute musical. Watch that and see how to do it. Now your narrative, whatever is going on beyond the singing, would have to be related to, hopefully, the crux of the song, and things like that. But yeah, like unless your song is 15 minutes, which it probably is, and it's probably 3 to 5 minutes, then you got 10 minutes to fill. If that's what you want. So you have to write a story around this song. Maybe you write, what is the song about? Write that story as a narrative. If it's about, like, let's say your song is about a girl breaking up with a guy, and I don't know, like something, father is upset and hates the guy or something. Well, write that as a short film. Write the scene with the girl breaking up with the guy, and then there's a moment, of course, where he starts to sing about it, or, or something. I mean, it's yeah, like I'm not a music video expert, but I mean, certainly if you want a 15-minute short film to be a music video, then you got to write a 15-minute musical. That's essentially what you're doing. Anyways, man, hopefully that helps a little bit anyway. I'm certainly no expert in After Effects. Adobe Premiere. Oh yeah, yes. Unless you're asking Adobe to edit a music video in Adobe After Effects, you would never do that. You would use Adobe After Effects to work on visual effects, right? So if your music video had explosions or, whatever, you would import the footage in there and you would work on it. You would work on the clips to add visual effects to your clip, but you would never import all of your footage into Adobe After Effects and do an assembly edit. Like you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't edit your short film in there. You would use Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro or Sony Vegas or whatever is the one you'll be using. What's going on here? It was Tim. Dave's going crazy. What's going on? Oh. Tim Line, thoughts on Loomis being in Halloween Kills? Sorry, I've already asked. I answered it earlier in the stream. You'll have to go back and watch it. Maybe I'll do a video. Maybe I'll do a video on it, standalone. I don't know if I'll have time today to do it. Maybe I will. Probably not, though. I have to get ready because I'm having a Zoom meeting with my cast and a bit of my crew tonight for It's Me, Billy. So I got to get ready for that this afternoon as well. Did I miss any super chats? Nope. Wayne was the last one. Good. That's always good. It's always good. I didn't miss any. That's what I like to see. Chris Haim says, hey, Dave, are you an MMA or boxing fan? I've heard you comment on fights a couple of times briefly. Any favorite fighters or fights? I wouldn't say I'm a fan, but I enjoy watching. I mean, I haven't watched boxing in years. I mean, I used to watch boxing a fair bit back in the late 80s, early 90s when, Mike Tyson was king. But that's primarily because I lived with my dad and my dad went to a lot of those fights. So, but I haven't really been up on what's going on, because boxing got real shit there for a while. And I haven't been up on what's going on, especially the heavyweight division. Not all boxing, but certainly the heavyweight division did for a little bit there. And so I haven't really been up on boxing in a while. And MMA, I was into it probably about 15 years ago. I was into it probably from about 2005 to 2010, maybe, somewhere around there. And then I kind of just lost interest again. So I don't know who's who and what's going on and shit like that. But yeah, I'm not a fan. I'd watch fights, sure. I mean, come on, I'm a guy. I'll sit and watch two guys fucking pounding the shit out of each other. Like, who wouldn't, right? But I wouldn't say that I'm a fan. Like, I'm up on what's going on, all the, the players and the guys and, what's going on, the fighters and they're fighting this person, that, but no, I would never be able to hold my own on information like that. Frank Riker says, Dave, your feelings on Loomis in the flashback. That's my new super That's my new super chat now till the movie comes out. Frank, you make me laugh, my man. The conspiracy trifecta says you didn't even see Floyd versus Pacquiao or Floyd versus McGregor. No, I saw Floyd versus McGregor. I did see that, but I didn't have to buy it on pay-per-view. See, that's the thing too about this day and age. Years ago, you had to buy paper, and you still do and can if you want in the moment, real time, be the first, right? But one of the great things about YouTube is that, I don't have to buy an MMA. Like, I'm not enough of a fan of either sport where I will buy pay-per-view. I don't care. Now, if there's some sort of crazy thing like, it's going to be, McGregor versus Mayweather. I mean, I didn't even buy that either, but I can understand the appeal. Like, holy shit, you gotta check that out. And as soon as the fight was done, I was on YouTube trying to find, clips and shit. And I think within like 15, 20 minutes, like the vast majority of the fight was on there. So, I mean, it's like, you don't even have to buy it anymore. You just wait. Unless you want that real time adrenaline, experience. I understand that. Like Mike Tyson, right? Mike Tyson is making a comeback at 53. I mean, he's more than likely going to be just boxing 3 rounds of, exhibition. I doubt he's going to be fighting for the World Heavyweight Championship of the world. But certainly that's something that is, like shit, because it's my era, right? It's nostalgia. It's my era. He was the king when I was like 10, 11, and 12. So it's like, it's Mike Tyson. You know what I mean? So that's different. But if I don't even know who the heavyweight. Well, no, I guess it's Tyson Fury, because obviously that was a big thing. But I didn't even know Deontay Wilder was the heavyweight champion before that fight, because I wasn't up on boxing. I hadn't watched it in years. So it's just, I don't know. It's just the kind of thing where I would only watch. Yeah, I'm not a fan, but it's like, do you watch hockey? No. Would you watch it if there was something like crazy going on, like Conor McGregor gets on skates, and so it's like, well, yeah, it's kind of like that for me. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be some sort of, I don't know. I guess I just lost interest years ago because the heavyweight division just kind of, and I know there's other divisions, of course, but yeah, not a fan, but just not a huge fan. Let me see. Great questions. I like those. I like those questions. Yeah. Let's see here. Alexander Dirks. Oh, I read that already. Okay, let's see if I can get somebody I haven't seen before. Somebody I have not seen before, or at least, David White says, did you go to the Toronto press conference for Mayweather versus McGregor? That's right. They did have one here in Toronto. I totally forgot about that. I did not. No, I did not. I did not. So that's interesting. That's very interesting. The Film Addict says, hey, Dave, do you have a favorite scene from Birdman? That's a great movie. I showed my friends the movie the other day, and they were like, what the fuck? But they really like the movie and the ending a lot. Well, I've only seen Birdman once, so I don't particularly remember any scenes. Like, I'd have to watch it again, but I loved the creative choice to shoot that movie as if it was one shot, one take. I thought that was brilliantly done. Obviously, it wasn't one shot and one take. That would be virtually impossible to do. And I know that 1917 also does that. I've yet to see 1917, but I believe it also does that as well. I am just as fascinated by that. I am really fascinated by how they achieve that. I've got to watch the making of Birdman or the making of 1917 because I really want to find out how they achieve the one take like that from a logistics standpoint. Really interesting. That's because it's not. You can't shoot a movie. You can't shoot a movie in one take. I mean, you could. Rope almost did it. Actually, I think Rope. Yeah, but certainly with all, like, it's more difficult to shoot a movie in one take with 5 trillion moving parts, 36 locations. You know what I mean? It's just impossible to do. So I don't remember an example of it, but I definitely, or a scene, but I definitely like that aspect about Birdman. And 1917 I've yet to see, but I want to check it out because I hear it's great. Even just beyond the one take aspect, I hear it's a great movie. Jim Joe says, did we talk about the new Bill and Ted trailer yet? No, because I've yet to see it. I saw this morning that the poster dropped, but I've yet to see the trailer. So I will check out the trailer later this afternoon, and maybe that'll be my Thursday show. If I have time, like I said, I always say if because I'm so busy at the moment. Maybe I'll do a video on it, but we shall see. Mark Johnson says, Dave, you're a Blue Jays fan. When you were a kid, I'm sure you played street hockey in your street. Incoming puck. I'm a Blue Jays fan, but Blue Jays is baseball. Blue Jays is baseball. Are those two different? Because they're separated by a comma. So I'm assuming that that the hockey you're referring to is the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays is baseball. The Toronto Maple Leafs is hockey. And yes, I did play street hockey as a teenager. 100%. Paul Williams sends in a super chat and says, Dave, now that today's the 9th, have you heard any news about Halloween Kills trailer? No, I haven't heard anything about the Halloween Kills trailer. Several of the sources that reach out to me haven't said anything. Like I said, it may still come this month, but I think I'm leaning on a little surprise if it comes this month. I think July is more of a safer bet when the theaters open up and we have a real understanding of what's going to be happening in the fall, potentially. That's what I'm thinking. I'm not so sure it'll be this month. I'm not so sure, but you never know because we don't even have a poster yet. So, and we're already a quarter of the way through June. So we'll see. But sometimes I do get bits of information, so I will let you know. Wayne Gotke sends in a very generous super chat. Thank you so much, Wayne. Says, Dave, why, in your opinion, do you think a lot of Halloween fans are having trouble getting emotionally invested in Laurie's new daughter and granddaughter in H18? Too many timelines, or are they poorly fleshed out? Well, I think it's I mean, I think it's a combination of what you said there. I don't think the characters are particularly interesting. Halloween 2018 is Laurie's movie. I think you can remove Allison and Karen from the equation, and the movie doesn't even really lose anything. As a matter of fact, it might even improve the film overall. If Laurie had no children and lived alone and was a hermit, you don't really lose anything. Karen and Allison are not integral to that movie. Now, what is integral to that movie is if you are trying to tell a story about trauma, Jamie Lee Curtis's favorite word, trauma, and tell it about generations and the pass down of trauma and the 3 ladies, and well, then yeah, obviously that's very difficult to do with just one woman. But the reality is that I think you could remove Karen and Allison from the story and just refocus it a little bit onto Laurie, because that's the crux. That's the heart of the story. That's what everybody wants to see. Nobody's emotionally invested in Karen or Allison, and they weren't strong enough characters in this one movie anyway for us to feel a sense of attachment by the end of the movie. But Laurie is even though you are saying now that H2O and Resurrection, the other 3 films that Jamie Lee Curtis is in, don't exist anymore, her character, Laurie Strode, is so embedded into the pop culture consciousness that even though you say these movies don't exist anymore, and in this new movie, this Laurie Strode is only the Laurie Strode from the first movie. There was no mass murder at a hospital. There was no, Dean's College out in California. There was no asylum and rooftop, I'll see you in hell, kiss and fall. There was that never happened, ever, 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 ever. The character, it still did happen in reality, in the real world. And so she's embedded into your mind. So when you go watch the 2018 film, even though the movie is asking you to pretend that this version of that 2 and H don't exist, you cannot help but subconsciously, the weight of those movies, the weight of the evolution of that character is still there in the 2018 movie. So she has a commanding presence on the screen, very commanding. Even more so if there really only was one Halloween movie, because of how much her character is embedded in pop culture. So you can remove Karen and Allison altogether and you really don't lose anything other than the idea of that this is a generational thing. But you could refocus it and you don't lose a damn thing. You really don't. And as a matter of fact, it might have even improved the movie. Because then you don't kill Hawkins. You have Hawkins fill that gap, right? Which might be interesting. Sartain, maybe you don't kill Sartain. You have Sartain fill the other gap, perhaps. Maybe he still dies, but certainly you might be able to do that. I mean, there's a lot of things that you could do. So I think you're right. I think it's a combination of everything you've said there. Now, there's 2 other movies to go. By the end of Halloween Ends, depending on how they've written the characters of Karen and Allison, we actually might find ourselves becoming quite emotionally attached. Now, when I say emotionally attached, I don't mean like hardcore, like we're really emotionally invested like we are with like Nancy Thompson or, Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. But certainly they've grown on us because they've been fleshed out a little more. However, you are seeing them in 3 movies only in one night. So there's only so much you can do. There's only so much you can flesh out over the course of 12 hours as opposed to, 12 years, and backstories and where are they and how they've grown. And, there's that we're not going to have either. We're only going to have Karen and Allison, in this one scenario, in this one night. So there's no evolution of their characters and the growth of that. So that's something to keep in mind as well. I understand why the characters are there. I totally understand why they're there, and you're drawing parallels to the granddaughter and Laurie and, what she's going through and how she's going to rise up and not be fearful. And she's, you're going to change fate. And I get what they're doing, but certainly that first movie, that's Laurie's story. That's Laurie's movie. Karen and Allison are just there. You know what I mean? Really, at the end of the day. I mean, the only thing that Allison really has that is of any substantial interesting that sort of may foreshadow her character or the growth of her character is at the very end of the movie, the final shot, the camera pans down and she's clutching the knife. There's a lot of symbolism there. But other than that, and then of course, Karen, gotcha. Okay. So she was faking it the whole time, I guess, but I mean, you can remove that aspect of the movie and it may have been even stronger because then you can focus on what people are really there to see and and see Lori and how she's, and you can still have her. It's the same Lori. You can have her as the same woman, a hermit in that house, locking shit down. The podcasters show up. You have the same thing. You just restructure other parts of it, and yeah, it might have been interesting. Cool stuff. Thanks for the super chat, man. Really appreciate it. Let me see here. Chastity Smith says, we're in phase 3 in Illinois and theaters are still closed. Not many restaurants are open either. Oh, you're in phase 3. We are just beginning here in the province of Ontario. I don't know what other provinces across Canada are doing, but here in the province of Ontario, which is where I am, we're opening, but not in Toronto, not in the GTA, because in Toronto and the GTA, which stands for the Greater Toronto Area, and then if you even go a little bit beyond that to include Hamilton, Ontario, which is like the GTHA, in this whole area here, there's, I think there's, if not close to 10 million people or something like that. So there's a lot of people in this area, and this is where the high concentration was for COVID-19 in the province of Ontario. But other areas in the province, because the province is huge, you can fit a lot of states in the province of Ontario. It's ginormous. Other areas in the province are moving into stage 2 this Friday. So we're not even into stage 2 yet. So we're very anxious here. Definitely, indeedy. Camden Knott says, were you rooting for Mayweather or McGregor? I was rooting for Mayweather to knock McGregor the fuck out because I think he's I just, listen, what you like about somebody is the same thing that irritates you about somebody. And I think McGregor is a good fighter, but I think to consider him the greatest of all time is ridiculous. He's retired more times in the last 3 years than he's won fights. I just think I'm not saying he's not a good fighter. I mean, you'd be stupid to say that, but I wish he would fight more. Okay, you say you're, the greatest. People say you're the GOAT, which is just ridiculous to me. Fight. You got to get in and fight to show that. I mean, George St. Pierre, and I'm not just saying this because he's Canadian. I would say this if he was Japanese. I don't give a fuck what nationality he is. But George St. Pierre, as boring as some of his fights were because he was a ground specialist and not necessarily a striker, he only lost twice, and I believe he avenged both losses. And he defended his title, like 9 times? He fought. The reason why people say he's one of the greatest of all time is because the evidence is there. McGregor's like, yes, he's won. He's been a champion. But the last 4 or 5 years especially, I think the Mayweather fight and the $100 million paycheck sort of just, he doesn't need to. He's like, meh, whatever. Comes back, loses a fight, comes back, wins a fight. He lost to Khabib and then he won against this guy in a couple of seconds, and that's essentially it. And it's like, well, that doesn't mean anything. It does, and now he's retiring again, and then he'll probably get bored in about a year. He'll be like, I'm back. And it's just like, fuck, somebody punch the fuck out of this guy, because I just find him irritating. But at the same time, I like that about him as well, because he's fun to watch. But make no mistake, he's not the greatest of all time, not by a long shot. You got to be in the ring, buddy, or the octagon. You got to be in the octagon fighting. You have to earn it. You know what I mean? And it's the one thing you don't get to call yourself the greatest of all time. You don't get to say that. It's like when LeBron James says that, he's the GOAT. Maybe that's true. Now, I'm not saying he is, but I'm saying maybe when somebody calls himself that, maybe it is true. But you don't get to decide that. Stats will decide that. Fans will decide that. Pop culture impact will decide that. Your record will decide that. You don't get to decide it. Just call yourself. There's a lot of variables at play when it comes into considering who is the GOAT of something. It's not just popularity. It's not just statistics. It's not just wins versus losses. There's many factors that go into it. One of the reasons why people consider Wayne Gretzky one of the great, that's the hockey guy, one of the greatest athletes of all time in any sport, is because there was a period there where he had over 50% of NHL records. That's insane. You know, the stats were there, the evidence, and not just wins. And he had more assists overall than the next person in line had points. That's insane. If you know anything about hockey, which some of my American friends here probably don't. Anyway, I'm just saying that Conor McGregor is a great fighter and will definitely, but I think he will be more remembered for his antics and his, you know, Muhammad Ali, like Mike Tyson, like bashing than he will for almost anything else, you know? And I'm not saying he's not a great striker and hasn't won and isn't a champion. I'm not saying that. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to, you know, flip him off in an alley. But the greatest of all time? No. Let me see here. Aaron Click says, the fight between George St. Pierre and Johnny Hendricks was a shame. Johnny Hendricks clearly was the winner, but the judges awarded the win to George. I'd have to go back and watch that. I think I know the fight you're talking about, though, but I'd have to go back to watch that. Darren Sand says he's a thug. Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, throwing a chair at a bus and all that. Like, he's just a shit disturber. If he was somebody in my high school and we were the same size, because obviously he's, you know, and he, you know, he wasn't like, I beat the shit out of Pitts. You know, like I would have punched that guy in the face. I'd have punched him in the fucking face to shut him up. You know what I mean? But he's just if he ever faces Khabib again, I hope Khabib beats the shit out of him again. I really do. Because, you know, I don't know if anything will humble the guy, but I think he believes his own hype as far as I'm concerned. And again, not saying he's not good, but, you know, that's all I got to say to that. Gary Rangel says, how about WWE? Do you know if it was scripted and acted? Did you know it was scripted or acted, or did it take you long enough to realize? WWF, back in the day, it never came out officially that it was scripted until I would say the late 90s, early 2000s. Certainly when they changed it from WWF to WWE and they added the entertainment name in there. But there was always the suspicion of it. Always. I remember being a kid and watching WrestleMania like 4 or 5. Like it's like the late 80s with my friends and being over at a friend's place, and we were watching it. And my friend's dad was like, you know, this is all fake, right, kids? You know, and things like that. We're like, no, it's not fake. Oh, I don't know. Look, it's pretty fake. Look, he's not. It was always there. Like if you were a kid growing up in the 80s, there was always that cloud over wrestling. Always. Now, again, when we say fake, what we mean is, and what people mean, and I do think it's important to say that it means it's scripted. So we know who's going to win. We know who's going to lose. We know how this is relatively going to go. And some of it may be choreographed to a degree, right? You know what I mean? Like, okay, you know, I'm going to do this, you know, with you, to you at like the 5-minute mark, and that's how you're going to win. You know, things like that. But as Bill Goldberg said, just because it's scripted didn't change the weight of, you know, the Big Show when he picked him up in the air. He was still like 450, 500 pounds. He was still a big dude. I mean, it's not like, oh, because it's scripted, you know, everybody's light, you know, and it doesn't hurt to jump off, you know, the cage onto the, you know, the table. No, all that shit is real. That fucking stuff hurts. They are incredible athletes, incredible acrobats for all intents and purposes. And they put their heart and soul and sweat, blood, and tears into the show. But that's what it is. It's a show. It's like going to a show. It's you pay money, you go to a show, you see these performers and actors putting on a show. And hopefully the show is so good that you get lost in the story, in the drama of it. But it's totally scripted. It always has been. Holly Klein says, I remember they changed from WWF to WWE. That's right. It was about 2002 or 3, I think, when they did. Because I remember when WrestleMania 18, which was 2002, was here in Toronto. That was when The Rock faced Hulk Hogan, and it was still WWF then. and that was 2002. So I think WWE was like 2003 or 4 or something like that. Anyways, Holly says, I remember they changed from WWF to WWE. Was it because they got sued by the World Wildlife Foundation for using WWF? I don't know if they got sued for it, but that was likely to happen. Yes, it was the World Wildlife Foundation that was certainly the organization that had the issue. I don't know why it took them so long to have an issue, but they coexisted side by side for many years, but all of a sudden there was an issue. I'm sure there's a reason out there too. Michael Dean says, Dave, do you like Urban Legend or I Know What You Did Last Summer? I watched Urban Legend for the first time in a while the other day, and I really liked it. Nice little twist. Yes, I do. I liked the first I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I like Urban Legend too. Yeah, they're great, mid to late 90s horror movies. Yeah, I like them. All right, how long have I been on here? Let's go for another 4 minutes. We'll go for another 4 minutes, and then we will call it a day. I don't think I missed any super chats. I did not. All righty. Good stuff. Where am I here? There I am. 4 more minutes. 4 more minutes. Ba-da-ba-ba. Let me see here. The Conspiracy Trifecta says, Dave, are you playing fantasy this year? Am I playing fantasy this year? What do you mean? Like fantasy football? No, I don't know anything about football. I have no idea. I mean, I can tell you a lot. I know basic stuff to be able to make it seem like I know what I'm talking about in terms of the NFL, but I don't. No, I would never play because I wouldn't know what to do. I just be guessing. I have no idea. I don't know any of the team. I don't know who's on who and the team, who's good, what's not. I would rely on my brother Neil for that. My brother Neil knows a shit lot about NFL football, and he's a big NFL fan. So did the Kansas City Chiefs not win the Super Bowl this past year? They did, right? I think they did. The Kansas City Chiefs are my brother Neil's favorite football team. So I was really happy when they won the Super Bowl. I think they did, right? This past February. They did. Okay, yeah. Well, I was so happy for my brother Neil because that's his favorite team and they won. And certainly because they were close a couple of years ago or the year before, whatever, they were like on the cusp of winning or making it into the Super Bowl or something, and they didn't. So there's been a couple of times there where Kansas City has been on the cusp of greatness but hasn't, and so I was really glad to see them win for Neil, for my brother Neil. Let me see here. Dead Real Society says, for H2O is Dawson's Creek. For H2O is Dawson's Creek with Michael Myers guest starring. 5 Michael kicking 4. Sorry, are you writing 1 and 2? I'm not sure what the 4 and 5 mean. H2O was Dawson's Creek with Michael Myers guest starring. Michael kicking stones in background in H5. 6 bumbling cops from H5 insert clown music. Oh yeah, those are all crappy stuff, my man. Those are all crappy stuff. There's no doubt about it. Mark Johnson says, yes, David, I absolutely love. Oh, you guys are talking to each other. That's great. That's great. Great to see that. Let me see here. Okay, 1 more minute. 1 more minute to go. What is Fedge? Fedge or Feg? I don't even know how to say that last name. Galaiticus maybe? Avatar 2, 3, 4, and 5. Any interest? Do you like the original? I love the original Avatar. I am an unabashed fan of the original Avatar. And I am very much interested in seeing. I mean, listen, I was shocked and surprised that James Cameron wanted to do not 2, 3, 4, but 5. I'm cautiously optimistic, but it's James Cameron. It's James Cameron. You never count out James Cameron. So yes, I'm very interested to see, at the very least, Avatar 2 and what he's going to do with it. I'm very interested in seeing it. I think Avatar, unfortunately, I think there are definitely people out there. I will leave it here for today's show. I think there are definitely people out there that don't like the movie, for sure. But I think there are a large majority of people that hate on Avatar because it's a cool thing to do. I really do. I think because it was it's Dances with Wolves and this, it's Dances, and it's Pocahontas in space. Do you know how many of your favorite movies I could rip into with that same argument and make you feel like shit about your favorite movie? Like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm telling you, it would be very easy to do. Let's not pretend that Avatar is the only example of a story that's been told before over millennia, but it's just been, it's being told in this way. If Avatar did not become the highest grossing movie of all time, people wouldn't hate on it like they do. I think it's a great story. It's a timeless story that has been told before, but it's being told this way. The visual effects were great. The 3D was nuanced and subtle, which was great. It was a great science fiction adventure, and it's got a lot of things in it for a lot of people. And I think that's why there were so many different ages and so many different types of moviegoers that did find themselves enjoying it. What I enjoy it for, my mother may enjoy it for another reason. Or what this person may enjoy it for, I may not. Cameron is very good at dishing out movies that are like that. And I don't think it's the greatest movie of all time, but box office receipts are not indicative of quality. But I certainly don't think Avatar is a poorly made movie. It's a shitty movie. No, but I don't think it's the greatest cinematic movie of all time. Not at all. But and a part of the reason why it made so much money, of course, is because of 3D ticket sales too. We have to remember that. But that's also why Endgame made that much money too, is because of 3D ticket sales. I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Endgame made a hair above Avatar because of a lot of factors. It was the culmination of the MCU and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And oh my God, people were like, oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not knocking that. That is true. The hype was real. But so were 3D ticket sales for that too. So I mean, there's a lot of factors. And, and Endgame only beat Avatar by a hair because they re-released it with extra footage. So, I mean, I thought that was cheap. And I would have said the same thing if it was Avatar. If it was Avatar that was on the cusp of beating Endgame, but they decided to release it with like 5 minutes of extra stuff just to do it, I'd be like, that's fucking lame. That's lame. It doesn't feel organic. It feels lame. It feels like cheating to me. So, and I don't care who it is. It's just how I feel. But nonetheless, so yes, I am a big Avatar fan. I thought it was fun. And I'm looking forward to seeing what James Cameron does. Don't count him out. The only thing that disappoints me about it is that there will be people that will go see Avatar 2 wanting to hate the movie. There will be people that will go in wanting to, that's the culture and fandom that we live in. The Rise of Skywalker could have been the greatest Star Wars movie ever made, and because of the shit show of TLJ, there were people that wanted to hate The Rise of Skywalker. It doesn't matter. Even if they're sitting there going, well, actually, this is kind of entertaining. This is not bad. It's better than TLJ. No, it's not. Slap myself. No, it fucking sucks. I hate it. Damn you, Kathleen Kennedy. No, this is shit. There are people that do that. There are people that will themselves to hate things because they are so hurt and so upset about a direction of a certain story or character or whatever that it doesn't matter. The Rise of Skywalker is a better movie than The Last Jedi. It is. It's a better Star Wars movie than The Last Jedi. Unfortunately, it was never what it should have been. It should have been the end game of Star Wars, but it was never going to be because of, like I said, right? It was a whole, like everything I've said about it. But to say that The Last Jedi is, or The Rise of Skywalker is worse than The Last Jedi, I just think is nonsense. Yeah. I don't like everything about it, but I think it was, I enjoyed it a lot more. Let's put it that way. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me on episode 66 of McRae Live. I want to thank everybody for tuning into the show. I want to thank my moderators, Tabitha Short, Frank Riker, Jason Nike, and Darren Sands for doing what you guys do. You guys are amazing, keeping the chat room flowing. I really appreciate it. Thank you, of course, as well to everybody who sent in super chats. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And to the non-super chats as well. And remember, like I say, if I don't get to your question, it's never personal. There's a lot of people in the chat room talking, and more often than not, I like to look for people that are asking questions for the first time, or maybe I've yet to see, and I want to answer those as well. And so I will be back. If I'm not back with a standalone video between now and Thursday, I will be back Thursday morning at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time for episode 67 of McRae Live. What will we be talking about? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. Anyways, that is going to do it for me. You guys are amazing. So in the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you guys soon. Cheers.